And I'm with the mayor of Regina, Sandra Masters. Hi, Sandra.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's great to finally meet you. I don't think we've ever really crossed paths in the city, but it's a pleasure to chat with you here today. I had visions. We're here at Mosaic, overlooking Iceville. It's a beautiful setting. I had visions of us going for a skate and doing the interview. Then I thought, first of all, it's minus 35 with the wind chill. That's not good. And I have to say, Regina raised, I'm a terrible skater. How are your skating skills?
I'm like a giraffe on skates.
Oh, you are? So we're in the same boat there. So I'm glad we're
Completely.
here in the warmth of the AGT lounge here in Regina. When the idea of Iceville, before we get to some core issues, was presented to you, what did you think?
Oh, I thought it was brilliant and pretty much kind of an emblem of who we are here, which is how can we celebrate what we do have as opposed to perhaps what we don't, and bring people together in a place in a restricted time. How can we bring people together and actually get them physical active and just enjoying our beautiful city?
And making use of the stadium, which is a good thing as well. You've been on the job now for a little over 2 months. What's it been like for you?
It's been busy. It's been, I keep commenting on how I can't quite get over how many people want to speak with the mayor. And that just continues to gain speed, but it's been, frankly, fantastic.
And speak to you about what?
Some of it is just introductions. Some of it is they are looking for help with issues or advocacy. Some of it is they're looking for partnerships. And some of it is just the office of the mayor is meant to represent the city, and they would like that representation at events, mostly virtual right now, that they're holding, that they would like some thoughts coming from the city.
What does it mean for you to be the first elected female mayor of this city?
This hasn't, the import of it hasn't quite sunk in, partly because I've been female all my life, and so whatever it is I do, I just go into the next thing. Every now and again, I'm struck with how other people see it, especially younger women, and that representation and sort of what that means in terms of their goals and their visions of what they can do in their life. That's when it strikes me. But in terms of myself, I show up and learn what it is I'm supposed to do and then try to do it really well.
Do your job. Do your job. Let's get to some issues. And of course, you're right off the bat here. This vote, the executive committee vote that came up where 7 councillors voted in favor of a motion that would certainly restrict energy companies from sponsoring or advertising events, city-run events. 4 voted against. You were one of them. A couple things seem to come in mind. I assume a lot of people said, number one, what's the executive committee? I never heard of that. But number 2 is, what's with the motion? What do you make of the fallout from all of this?
I think people are stressed and don't particularly care to be branded as either good or bad when they go about their lives and they have employment and they seek self-betterment or support for their family. I think that's a little bit of the fallout. I think people are under a lot of pressure and are feeling isolated, and we're asking a lot of them for almost a whole year now, and I think we touched a nerve.
What do you mean by touch a nerve?
I think we have unemployment rate that is up. We have, and people are feeling, going into the pandemic, there was an economic slump to a certain degree. And to denote work as being bad or good or worthy of participating in the community felt a little offside.
So what do you make of the councillors who have switched, who have publicly stated they will vote a different way come the next council meeting? What's your reaction and your feelings about that?
The notion is at executive committee as to what executive committee is intended to do is to vote on issues to send to council for final vote. Typically, we would see the matters that we'll be discussing at executive beforehand. And so when something comes up that becomes what is essentially a walk-on motion, the implications and impacts of it are perhaps not fully thought through. Once the individuals that voted for it or presented it got the resident feedback that they did, I think it just informs a different vote. Ultimately, we're here to represent the citizens of Regina in a positive light, preferably. And I don't see it as switching as much as learning more about those impacts and those implications.
And yet, you know, I do see comments. Obviously, there was a groundswell of comments. And this is all anecdotal, of course. People supporting what you voted for, or being against the councillors who voted for that motion. But there are those who support it as well. Like, what do you say to those people?
I would suggest that, in fact, even of the people that oppose that motion, I can't find very many people who don't believe in becoming a sustainable city by 2050 in terms of a measured and practical and well thought out way. I can tell you that from the city administration, in 7 years, they have never had the response into Service Regina for requests that they've had from this. And I asked them, I said, if you were going to peg for and against, it's 98% against that vote. And so as relative to the 2% in terms of standing for it, again, I don't think anybody doesn't stand for reducing emissions and becoming sustainable and looking for greener forms of energy and ways of life. I don't think that's the issue at all.
Not to sound too obsessed about this, but I do want to bring this up because I think politically speaking, it's something that should be discussed. The Premier came out with some strong comments and what some perceive as a threat to cut funding if such a motion were to be passed by Council. What did you make of his comments that were posted on social media?
I think our job at the city level is to respect all elected officials' comments, and whether that be a provincial or federal level. I do not believe that the Premier had a role in any of our individual councillors who may be switching their vote. I believe that was 100% coming from resident feedback from them. So that system works. As it relates to the Premier making a comment at all about something happening at the municipal level, we do share all the same voters, whether they voted for or against him. And again, I think we've touched a nerve on this one. And as a mom, if someone kind of came after someone who I deemed to be that I needed to help protect, I may say something too that I wouldn't have jurisdiction over.
What does that say about the autonomy of the city, you as the mayor and you and the councillor, the power that you have over city-run projects when you have this shadow of a premier looking down and saying, I don't like what you're doing? Can you imagine if Trudeau did that to Scott Moe? There'd be an uproar in the streets of Saskatchewan. What's the difference?
I think ultimately at the end of the day, we get our half of our budget comes from the province. And I actually never saw it as a threat. I saw it as pointing out a hypocrisy of the motion when we take $33 million from the very people we say we won't take sponsorship from. That is hypocritical. And so I didn't take it as a threat. I took it as him defending a sector of our economy. And I actually didn't take it as a threat at all to even other councillors or to the council as a whole in terms of what our job is to do, which is to govern the city.
I want to talk about something else, equally challenging, no doubt. When you talked in your campaign about a new aquatic center, for example, about rebuilding or putting up a new library downtown, you know, and I used to go to that old library, so I know that building very well. What are the challenges in trying to bring these big projects up during these pandemic times?
In fact, there's maybe in some respects more opportunity because of the way that the infrastructure bank is being structured at the federal level for infrastructure projects, where the federal governments, the province, and hopefully the municipal government recognizes that this is a time when governments, one of their roles is to invest in infrastructure in order to get people to work, in order to invest in the long-term benefits to our community. We have facilities here that are very old and that need to be replaced, properly planned for and then built. But I think there's funding available for this and partnerships available with both the province and the federal government. And in some respects, the challenge at our level becomes making sure we're doing proper planning and setting aside that money for those infrastructure developments. Aside
from that, what are the biggest challenges as the mayor in being a mayor of a city during these COVID times?
I think it's attempting to be, you know, to reminding people that we are all in this together, and it's used so much as to sound trite, but the reality is that we have a once in a lifetime, hopefully, experience of having to ride out a pandemic while a vaccine gets delivered, to keep people safe and to remain calm and reassuring to the point where when people's patience is being tried and there's trying economic times and there's threat of death for some people we love.
There is that, and you also brought up during your campaign your concerns, like many concerns about the homeless, about drug addiction, which appears, again, I have not seen the stats, but they seem to be rising. Police certainly talk about that. What role can you play, you and council, to try to deal with these massive issues in the city?
Well, I think the Regina Police Service report into the city governs that particular body, or the police commission does. I think the idea being is that our job should be, I call it the nexus of collaboration, in terms of making sure we have relationships developed with the community organizations delivering those services, include the Regina Police Service, but then reach into the government and the federal, provincially, for social services, education, justice, health, to pull all those strings together. And I'd like to take it a step farther, because I think there's some incredible work happening at the University of Regina, for example, as it relates to mental health and trauma and potential addictions issues, that if we can thread everybody together to come up with a better solution than what we're delivering now, that's really long-term how you're going to solve it. This is a wicked problem. This is not something that's solved in 12 months or 4 years. But you have to set something on the pathway so that 18 years from now, that next generation, where my grandchildren will have just a better handle on how this can be talked about and be dealt with and be serviced. The systems that are servicing it can be basically deconstructed and reconstructed in a way that actually services the people going through these things.
Okay, I'll get away from some of those issues. I want to ask you, what have you learned about the city that you may not have known before you became the mayor?
That everybody is incredibly proud of this city and they're passionate about it. And it's really what makes us, I think. We have all of these, I started a win wall because I hear all of these little tidbits about our city, these amazing things that we've accomplished, on a provincial and a national and international level that nobody, you really don't know about unless it's talked about. But the people of Regina choose to live here, and they want to be proud of their city, and they want people to come and visit them so they can show them just how incredible we are as it relates to being a host and being educated and being innovative. And yeah, it's actually that's been honestly the most heartwarming thing, and why I say that, as frustrating as some things may be, it's a fantastic job, because every day I talk to somebody who loves this city.
What would you do, let's say, if you had a couple hours to kill in the city? Now, during these pandemic times, it's a whole different situation here, but what would you do if you just had a couple hours, if you even have that kind of free time these days? What would you want to do with your time?
Well, if I'm not meeting with someone, what I really enjoy doing is walking, and so I go on the walking path around the Wascana Lake, because it's the university side where you go out by Douglas Park and whatnot. It's peaceful, it's fantastic, and to me it's the best of both worlds. You get that natural element of the beauty of Regina, and yes, it's flat, but I actually have a preference for that.
Don't tell me you're doing 2-hour walks along the lake, are you?
I do.
You do,
I do.
It's a good place to think things through, especially after a council meeting or something. It'd be a nice thing to do therapeutically. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. I have a lot of Greek friends in town who own pizza places. You know, the thick style Greek pizza is like famous across Canada. Honestly now, what is it, thick or thin slice? Because these guys pay a lot of taxes and they employ a lot of people in the city. Not that I want to sway your vote, but what would you do?
Honestly, at the age I'm at now, I take the Greek ribs and the chicken wings is what I take. The drumettes, because they're perfection, and then every now and again the fried cheese.
Oh, that's fair enough. You know what? I'm kind of feeling the same way. Well, before I let you go, looking ahead to the next, 3+, almost 4 years, what do you hope you'll accomplish? What's the one thing that you want people to say, oh yes, this is what Sandra did, that was pretty cool?
Aside from actually the beginning and being able to see evidence of that investment in that infrastructure, I want people to tell a better story about Regina, both ourselves and externally. That when you think of our city, how we describe ourselves has been fed to them, because I think we're pretty incredible, and we don't necessarily get credit for that all the time.
Well, the next interview we do, we're both going to take skating lessons. You find someone to teach you, and we're going to go for a skate on Iceville, because I have a feeling this is going to be around next winter as well.
Absolutely.
It is for sure?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, and there's no excuses. We're prairie kids. Come on. We got to lace on those skates, Sandra.
As I said, it just looks like a giraffe on skates. As long as I don't fall down, I can skate.
I'm in the same boat. Well, I wish you all the best, and thank you for taking time to speak with me today.
Thank you so much, Costas.